Shalom Aleichem. We're learning the Sicha of Shemini Gimel. Before we go into the farbrengen that built the Sicha, I think it's the kind of Sicha that a bit of context from the actual Chumash would help. I think the best way to get the context is actually from the Kahas Chumash. In general, I feel like it's slowly getting appreciated, but it's still underrated how amazing the Kahas Chumash is. And no, I'm not getting any royalties for saying that, but I think it's really, really awesome. So let's just read the story first together. So basically, Nadav and Avihu passed away. Nadav and Avihu's bodies were removed from the Mishkan, and then the installation ceremony could continue by Yom Shemini, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Aaron brings the additional karbanis for Rosh Chodesh. Once all the karbanis are sacrificed, the question arose whether the portions of the sacrifices designated to be eaten by Kohanim should indeed be eaten by Aaron and his two living sons, who were all in the level of Einin. They were their brother, and some weren't buried yet since they were mourning. Now, as will be recounted later in Parshas Nasi, the princes of the 12 tribes donated dedication offerings for the inauguration of the Mizbeach, and Hashem told Moshe to offer one of these each day during the 12 days of functioning. The first one was a Nachshon ben Aminadav's tribe of Yehuda. By the way, he's Aaron's brother-in-law, right? Aaron married Elisheva, who's the sister of Nachshon. Just an interesting point. So that happens on the same day. These dedication offerings include grain offerings, minchas, part of which were to be eaten by the Kohanim. So the same question applies to Nachshon's mincha offering. So Moshe speaks as follows to Aaron and the surviving sons. He says, even though only a Kohen Gadol is permitted and required to eat his sacrifices on the day of his close relatives die, an Einin, all three of you in this respect too are subject to the stringencies of the Kohen Gadol, and you must therefore eat all the portions of the installation grain offering, which is what they brought for the mincha for setting up for the day, and the dedication grain offering of Nachshon ben Aminadav to the karbanis. Thus, take the portion of the grain offering left over after the part was brought on the Mizbeach and eat them as unleavened loaf, as matzahs. Basically, bake them and eat them as matzahs. You must eat these grain offerings near the Mizbeach within the Mishkan area, for they are kachi kadashim. You must eat them in the Mishkan, because they are kachi kadashim. And for this same reason, the Kohen's portions are only your portion and your son's portion from Hashem's offering, but your wives and daughters cannot eat it, as we say each day in mourning and davening, Ezo Mekayman. And we talk about Kachi Kedashim, Shchitas Matzapon, etc., and it could only be eaten L'Kohen. Elazar and the summer must eat them, even though their brothers died today, as so I've been commanded. You must eat your portions of the installation peace offerings. However, you do not have to eat them within the Mishkan, because they're shlomim, and therefore they are kachim kalim. So the peace offerings, the shlomim, not the grain offerings, you don't have to eat. Therefore, you must only take care to eat the breast used as the wave offering, the tznufa, and the thigh used as the raised offering in an undefiled place, basically a place that's tahar. Furthermore, you may eat your portions of these sacrifices together with your sons and your daughters, because touching common, you could do that with your family. For although they have been given only as a portion, as your portion and your son's portion, nevertheless they can be shared. Now, the Kohanim must bring the thigh used as a wave offering and the breast used as the wave offering on top of the fats used as the fire offering. In other words, you must bring them all together and wave them in front of Hashem. So they would bring all these things together and they would wave them in front of Hashem, as we spoke about Parshas Sav and other parts. It will belong to you and your sons as an eternal entitlement, as Hashem has commanded. That's the background of the story. Now, based on Moshe's instructions, Aaron and his sons ate their portions of the sacrifice that were prescribed today. They ate the installation grain offering, the Chanukas Habayis, the installation sin offering, the Chatos, the Mincha, the Chatos, the Shlomim, Nachshon's Chatos, Nachshon's Mincha. There was, however, another offering of Kachi Kadashim that they would normally have been required to eat, And that is what would be brought for the Seir Izim that was brought Lachatas on a Rish Chodesh. However, unlike the other offerings, this one was not an exceptional offering brought specifically for that day, but a regular offering that would be brought every Rosh Chodesh. This happened to just be the first Rosh Chodesh that they would bring it. Since Moshe, when he informed Aaron and his sons that Hashem instructed them to eat their portions of sacrifices, even though they were more close relatives, he only mentioned the 2 grain offerings that were prescribed for specifically that day of Chanukah Samizbeach. They assume the directive only applies, the Hayra, the message of Hashem only applies to those and not to the regular sacrifice, the regular carbon for Rosh Chodesh. They thought that still the rule applies to regular sacrifices, that an Einan is not allowed to eat the meat of the goat. They were waiting till the next day to eat it was not an option because Kachi Kadashim has to be eaten by Yom and the following night. Therefore, instead of eating their portions of the Chatas offering, the series in the Chatas for Rosh Chodesh, they burned it up as should be done. Whatever carbon you won't be able to eat at the time, you're supposed to burn. Moshe assumed the opposite. Since Hashem had told him that neither Aaron nor his sons should observe any avelus that day to not dampen the simcha, he reasoned that this was the motivation behind the directive, behind what Hashem told him, and therefore it should apply also to Rosh Chodesh. So Moshe inquired about the sin offering, the goat, when he saw that they were not eating it, and he discovered it had been burned up. Moshe inquired about the other sacrifices and found out that it was being eaten. So he became angry with Aaron for the seemingly careless attitude. What do you mean? What are you doing? Making a joke? Hashem told you what to do it. By the respect of Aaron, he kind of screamed at Elazar and Isamar, demanding a response. Why did you not eat? Why didn't you eat the offering? Was it perhaps at any time not in the right place? In other words, did it become pigul? Did it become not able to eat because it went into the wrong area, etc.? Kachi Kadashim could be disqualified easily. The answer, no, it's not. So Moshe says, why didn't you eat it? Hashem gave it to you in order to get forgiveness. That the carbon serism for Rosh Chodesh brings kapara to the Jewish people. And the kapara of the whole Am Yisrael is waiting for you. The whole, its blood was not brought into the sanctuary. If it had been brought, then it would have caused it to be burned. What happened? Why didn't you eat it? Did you apply the blood to the Mizbeach itself, which would have invalidated the sacrifice because an Avtzon is not allowed to do it? They didn't say anything. They remained silent out of respect to their father and their teacher. Aaron spoke harshly to Moshe. Did they offer up the sin offering and their scent offering today before Hashem? Why are you screaming at them? It was I who brought this. And this is permitted for I am the Kohen Gadol. So I was able to bring it because I'm a Kohen Gadol and there's no avelus at all. So the sin offering was not burned up because it became invalid. It became because there was no justification to apply the heter that you heard from Hashem regarding the other karbanos to apply it for this. Because this is a once-off celebration, but these offerings are for a long term. In other words, the Kodesh forever. So therefore, if I had eaten a regular sin offering today, would that pleased Hashem? He told us that mourners may not eat the sacrificial meal, and what Hashem allowed was specifically to the other karbanos. Moshe heard this and understood this and accepted this. It pleased him so much he was not about to admit that Aaron was correct, even though he only heard it from him, not from Hashem. In his anger, it was obvious that Aaron alluded, and that's what the Rabbi explains in the Sicha that we learned. So let's go now into the Sicha. It's a longer share than usual, but I just feel like giving this context would help with the Sicha. So the Rebbe explained at the farbrengen, the etc. He was fine to say it. Why does it have to say my Chumash? We already know Vayishma Moshe. So what does it have to tell us? And therefore Rashi comes and tells us that the pasuk is being Mosif that Divrei Aaron was good in the eyes of Moshe, so much so that he was able to tell others Lo Shamati. Now, on the words that says by Yishma Moshe, he already understood. So what l'char b'yita b'yina is extra. So the Rebbe says, like the Fiqh Rebbe used to say, that there's head and dead head. So there's hearing and then there's fully comprehending, and that's what it means by Yishma Moshe. Already that he got it. And on what the Rebbe says that the pasuk is that Rashi is coming to say that the pasuk is saying that Divrei Aaron were good in the eyes of Moshe b'yoser, extremely. The Rebbe says that was similar to what Rashi said in the pasuk by Yidim Aaron. Aaron was quiet when his sons died, and he got reward for being quiet. L'chuda, when he heard that it's exer from Hashem, he had no choice. Rather to so what's the big reward? And the answer is because he did it b'ahava. He did the extras. So too over here, you see that the words of Aaron were like accepted by Moshe extra. So much so they had to say to others, Lei Shamati. He did because he didn't hear Hashem, the difference between Kachi Shah, which was the karbanis of that day, and Kachi Daris, which would be the karban Sir Chatas that would last for many, many generations. Now, the Rebbe says on the question, how is it possible that Moshe didn't hear something from Hashem? Whatever will come up in Torah Shabbat, Moshe Rabbeinu heard. And if Aaron didn't hear from Moshe, how did Aaron answer halacha in front of his teacher? How could he make up halacha? You can't say in front of your teacher. So the Rebbe said, first of all, Moshe did not hear everything yet. Whatever was going to happen from this parsha onward, he didn't hear yet. It was still to unfold, so he didn't hear the whole Torah Shabbat yet. And Aaron didn't make halacha. He didn't say the halacha. Moshe asked him why he did something. He explained the reason. So he wasn't Meir halacha b'fnei Rabbi. He was Meir halacha earlier. Okay. Then the Rabbi continues saying that it's unlike the Mefarshim that says on the Gemara that Shamati vid Shachachti. Anyway, now because the difference between Kachi Shal and Kachi Daris is something that's Tali B'Svara, so it's not necessary to say a Chidush Gadol that Moshe came into anger. And the Rebbe said because that's something that's muflach, it's totally incomprehensible for Ben Chamish Lamikra. Especially according to what Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu got the Torah b'matana like a kala to a chassan. How could Moshe forget something he learned? A 5-year-old can't get it. Only in Parshas Matas, where it says that Vayiktzif he got angry and that brought to the mistake, then you could say in hindsight this was also the mistake. That this was also a mistake that happened because of anger. Then the Rebbe says we still have to understand what it says in Parshas B'Kodei B'Tzalel also is Kol Asher Tziva Hashem Moshe, and Rashi over there says Asher Tziva Oisei Moshe. It doesn't say Moshe commanded him, but rather everything Hashem commanded Moshe. Even things that B'Tzalel was not told by Moshe, he still did it. His schema daita, his mind worked similar to what Moshe was told by Sinai, because Moshe told B'Tzalel to first do Kelim and then Mishkan, and B'Tzalel said it makes first sense to do a bias then the Kelim. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, but Tzel Kel, you were obviously in the shadow of Hashem, because that's not what Hashem said. It's not understood. If Hashem told him to make the Mishkan and the Kelim, why did Moshe do backwards? So Rashi should have then already said, Rashi should have explained how Moshe came to the Tos, and over there you cannot say because there was no kas. And the Rebbe doesn't answer that. And the beer Repnimi saying that mitzad Moshe midas emes constant. There's no difference between Kachi and Kachi Daris. Aaron, which is more in tune with the Makabel, so it's different. There's nuance, it's flexibility, it's more complicated. And the idea is that even when you avoid with yourself, it's without shinuyim. And the Rebbe says, for example, this like you're getting a nachin chapes for Shabbos Parshas Shemini is there for the whole year. Nevertheless, you can't expect that from the zulas. And the Rebbe went on to continue to talk about something specific in the Rashi, L'chaim L'shalom and B'suras Feres.